We're gonna call this to order. I didn't realize we were past time.
Oh, right, thank you.
So we'll call this to order at 6:32. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. See Mr. Dunkley coming in here.
Wow, skiing?
I wish.
So, given everything that's going on, there's going to be some alterations to the agenda. I do have a couple of additions, a couple of things that we had asked the people that had requested to be on the agenda, whether they felt it was pertinent tonight. So we will table the town picnic discussion. We will also table the town and select board policies under old business. Additions to the agenda, I have 1, 2, 3. First will be to make appointments. I'm sorry, that one's actually already on there. So we have the other one, discussion about a direct mailer to identify vulnerable adults. The other one is going to have to do with some town employees and potential pay during these closures. I don't feel that that needs to be an executive session. Would you agree with that?
I think that's okay.
Okay.
No names are gonna be said, right?
Yeah, we can do that without that, sure. And that's all that I have.
Oh, and Maddie Arms, we appointed her as our representative to handicap, but we also need to state that she's also our liaison, so that it carries through.
Yeah, okay.
I'm sorry.
Where would you like to throw that in?
Sorry.
I missed that.
Maddie Arms is our representative to handicap, but we need to state that she's also our liaison.
Okay. Thank you.
All right.
So moved. Yeah, that's all I want.
Can I get a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. So we will continue. Chair remarks. I have to be honest that I all day had tried to figure out how to address any of this stuff that's going on. Certainly I have children that are seeing it as well, dealing with the schools, and this is nothing but a learning curve, and each day we are figuring new things out, and just as we feel we have them figured out, things change. So we're doing the best that we can. The one thing that I can assure the town of Vernon is that your elected officials, your town employees, everybody has certainly come together and worked tirelessly to get through this. The EOC has been unbelievable in keeping us updated with things. Just reaching out, Sarah Coffey, who's here with us this evening, she has been in touch with us to make sure that Vernon is okay, just seeing what we might need. So given that, I think that we are headed in the right direction, and we'll get through this as a team here. So with that being said, I would ask that David Emery and Mark Snow join us for a committee report.
Good evening, everyone. I'll just give you a brief update where things are going, because I'm confident that after we leave, it'll be different. That's how rapidly things are changing. I sent out some reports this morning, and as of this evening, they've already changed. However, let me give you some of the things where we are. I'm going to talk a little bit about what the state has done and ordered and changed, and then I'll go into what we did in Vernon. As of right now, you know, the governor ordered all restaurants and bars closed as of 2 o'clock this afternoon. However, takeout orders, or as they call takeaway orders, are still an option for restaurants to do. And some are electing to do that and some are not. So that's still open. Grocery stores are still open and operating. However, that will be determined by employees as they go along. If enough employees can't man the store, then that will be a complicator for them, as for everyone throughout the country. The state of Vermont is ramping up labs. There's the opportunity for not only the state lab, but for outsourcing for that to take place. And as of this evening, there are 12 positive cases in Vermont. They've tested 421 negatives. 474 are being monitored as of right now, and 143 have completed the monitoring. There's a lot of information out there, and probably the biggest thing is sharing information, and probably the most important thing is use some credible websites. Go to the CDC, and they've all been posted many, many times. However, I caution you and urge you, what you read on Facebook may not be 100% accurate. So I would tell you to use the accurate websites of the CDC and the state of Vermont Emergency Management, et cetera. We are suggesting any Vernon residents that have routine doctor's appointments or visits, that they contact that physician to see if they still want them to come in. And some doctors are stopping for a couple of weeks. However, anything that's an emergency, that's still on the table, that you please don't hesitate to activate your 911 system. If you do, you're gonna be asked a number of questions about how you're feeling and what's going on and the particular emergency that's happening. The appropriate agencies will respond. Vernon Fire will respond as a medical team. However, depending on the case, they may or may not enter the house or the building. If in fact when the ambulance arrives, they are going to be geared up to take care of that. The nursing homes, let me come backwards. So that's where we are with doctors in emergencies. We feel extremely well prepared that that's going to be handled no matter what the emergency is. Last evening, we met with the emergency management group, as well as we invited a number of other people with us, and I forgot to mention that Mark and I are teamed up as a team. Mark is the health officer, as you know. So between the two of us, we seem to get a lot of information. Some of it's the same. And we forward it out to our team, and a lot of it's redundant. But it's better to have it more than once and know it than say you never got it. So what I'm going to pass out, and for your reading enjoyment, is a document that Mark prepared for us to consider, and then there's minutes from our meeting last night. So that I will pass those out together. I'm sorry.
I have that electronically. So, well, Mr. Snow, I need yours electronic. I can send it to you.
You don't think
That's the only one.
Then I have it, okay.
Okay. Did I get you? That's-
Some of this one might have been updated today.
So what I'm gonna look at first is the one that's Vernon Emergency Management 316. And I'm just gonna run down through that briefly, and we'll answer questions that you have. Again, I'm sure it's nothing that you don't already know. But some of the things that are happening, Vernon Green is one of the targeted areas that we have to be extremely considerable to help them. They have unfortunate, the age group that's being looked at. They have some great stuff already in place. Visitors and stuff are stopped at the door. If there is any reason for people to enter there, such as rescues or they will go through not only a questionnaire, but the temperatures will be taken before they enter the building. So they are pretty much on top of that. I talked with Vermont Yankee, and because they're not operating, the crisis is considerably lower than what it would have been. And at their point, if in fact their employees, North Star's employees and their workers end up, the only thing that would do is extend some of their deadlines and their target dates. The other part is the security part, and you can sleep well to know that they have a good handle on the security side. The fire chief, as I mentioned, is feeling comfortable where he is with the response. Mutual aid is now and has been a product and is still in effect for fire. The Vernon School, as you know, has been closed. Today, as of today, all the schools in the state of Vermont, there were some options where they could run Monday and Tuesday, but now the state of Vermont is completely closed. And one of the things is that they're continuing to do their meals, and it's set up so that meals for kids that typically got that will still be able to get the meals. Part of the plan is to, the buses will run the bus routes and utilize the bus routes for dropping off meals as necessary.
In addition to that, the Vernon Green did indicate last night that they handle the Meals on Wheels program for Vernon, and that they do have the capabilities of providing some additional meals. Any referrals should be directed to Chris McAvoy at the Brattleboro Senior Meals, and he'll make arrangements with Vernon Green to make that happen.
Okay, good. The sheriff's department is on board as far as responding to emergencies. They will respond to the emergency, the medical emergency, but they probably won't participate unless it's needed. One of the things that you're going to talk about later is identifying who in our town has a special need, and we have a list of people that Tom has been on today and has done an extremely good job of identifying that. So we may be ahead of that game. However, I'm not so sure that sending postcards might be a good idea anyway.
Mr. Chairman, just because of your lead on that, but in a lot of the agencies I've spoken to today, we are ahead of most communities in doing the, making sure that our vulnerable populations are going to have communication back and forth from these agencies, either through the town hall or through the EMD, or two of the agencies said no one's doing this yet but you guys, so.
And also, I think important to extend that, saying that yes, but that's also only the people that are in those systems are accounted for.
Mhm.
So we are missing a large group here.
And that's been part of the questioning, but I'll let
Right. Well, I'm hoping we're not missing a large part of it.
Well, sure.
I'm hoping that we're gonna get that number. However, I'm confident there are numbers of people out there in our town that aren't receiving some of those services that hopefully we can identify. So having that said, as Mark mentioned, the Meals on Wheels for Vernon is done through the Vernon Hall. And they have indicated, or Mr. Sleeper indicated that we're encouraging people to go through Chris McAvoy. However, if we know of people that haven't we're still gonna feed them. We're still gonna make sure that works. One of the things that we would shout out to all our Vernon residents and saying that if you're willing to be a volunteer, to go on a volunteer list for different tasks that may come up, send Tim Arsenal email or a phone call, and we'll get your information and put you on that list and maybe task you for help as thing goes on. As of right now, we are in pretty good shape. I'm not sure that any of us will ever be ahead of the curve, but we're keeping our wheels on the ground. The road commissioner who's here, and he can speak to it, but he's all set with his mutual aid systems and whoever. We're somewhat fortunate. We don't expect more than 10 feet of snow the rest of the year, but we're fortunate that maybe the time of the year might be helpful to us. Bruce Burks at the Vernon Church does the food shelf, and they get their food and stuff through Vermont Food Bank, and they are comfortable with how they're handling it and with what's happening, and they're going to continue that, and people will still be able to go there. However, the process may change where they'll bring the food out to them versus them going in and shopping.
And I do believe that if, and speaking with Bruce, that should delivery need to happen, I believe that there's volunteers in that church that would be willing to help with that.
And that's correct. Looking down through, we had Deputy Whittle with us last night, and as you know, the Sheriff's Department had created a long time ago a program called Are You Okay? And that's still up and running, and if people want to use that, did you get forms today?
I did.
Okay.
Yep.
And
So-
that was also posted to the Facebook page from Tim today as well.
Okay. And I know Tim's gonna update Vernon's webpage, unofficial webpage.
Yes.
He's gonna do all of that and get that done. The Vernon store, at this point, is gonna stay open, and they are operable. And in a nutshell, and it truly is a nutshell, anything that,
No, I would just repeat what you said in regards to people gathering information. Use reputable websites such as CDC, the Vermont Department of Public Health. The dial 211 is also an informational number. Vermont
We
Emergency
do have to be
Management.
careful with 211, and I found this out the other day, that with our border of New Hampshire sometimes will pick that call up. They will give you an 800 number to call Vermont's 211, but if we are on the Mass border or close enough to the New Hampshire border, it'll kick us off to a different tower.
That's the first time I've heard that.
Yeah.
Good to know. So there's numerous respectable and websites out there that you can get information from. We do not recommend using social media for that, such as Facebook. I believe that's pretty much it in a nutshell, with the exception of, remember, we all have a role in this during this pandemic. And what the Vermont Department of Public Health is sending out as for a message to everyone is to be prepared, but don't panic. Stay informed. Take everyday preventive measures. Social distancing. Avoid large gatherings. Avoid close contact and direct contact. And wash your hands frequently. Those are the basic messages that are being sent out by government agencies today. I guess moving forward, in addition to volunteers, if there's anyone out there that knows of a neighbor or someone that may need some assistance, they are certainly welcome to give myself or Dave Emery a phone call or an email. And we are making that available, and Tim will be posting that on the website in the near future as well.
Michael,
Questions?
Jeff?
Yeah, I had a question about testing. So let's say, for example, that you have a fever and a dry cough, you do not have a general physician or health provider, don't go to the ER,
Right.
right? But what do you do at that
Well,
point?
Well, if you call 211, they will actually try to hook you up with one of the clinics. However, if you can't do that, you can call the hospital directly, and the hospital will say, come up here, stay in your car, we will come out and we will meet you outside. And so people that don't have physicians aren't gonna just be brushed away, but one of the opportunities is to call 211 and see if they can hook you up with a clinic. If that doesn't happen, then call the hospital direct. And
So if you end up going to the hospital, is that where you're tested?
that's correct, yeah.
Okay.
Right now, for our area, the testing is being done at the hospital. However, they're looking at alternative sites that may be done. All depends on how they can keep up with it or whether they can't keep up with it. And alternative sites may be posted and for that. And I'm not a physician, so I don't know what the cases are, but some cases will be admitted and some cases will be sent home for monitoring. The hospital in Brattleboro and the hospital associations have a whole group where they can put people in different spots for different things. So right now, the surge capacity hasn't been met. So, however, we could. So again, it's all dependent on how many times people wash their hands and keep distance and do everything that you're supposed to do. And we may help not spread that any more than we have to. But as we've seen in other countries, we're not out of the woods. And what it looks like is, it was a 2-week, 4-week, 5 months, and now, there's even rumblings about June and July. But today, we need to get through today and see what tomorrow brings. So I don't know if that answered your question.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely.
Go ahead, Mary.
Just so you know, Dave and I did attend a meeting last week at the Brattleboro Fire Station. There was Brattleboro Memorial Hospital and Vermont Department of Public Health personnel there. And at that time, staff from BMH indicated that they feel very comfortable at the level that they're at for staffing and supplies. Of course, that could change, quickly, but as of last week, they felt very comfortable where they were, the position they were in.
And correct me if I'm wrong, we had representation from our fire and EMS at that meeting as well?
We did,
Okay.
we did. Yeah, yes.
In urgent care, I'm just throwing that out there because that's kind of becoming more popular. Are they playing any role in this, or are they saying, don't come to us?
No, that is still on the same tack that it was, same track. Urgent care is, connected with the medical field, and they are getting all of that information that everyone else is getting. And so, yeah, you're okay with that at this point.
Okay. Sandy? Gene? Tom?
No, I'm good, thank you.
Okay, well, thank you. And it truly, my cell phone will be posted here shortly, vernonemd@gmail.com. Call the phone, it'll forward to my phone, so whatever Vernon residents need, we'll make sure that we take care of it.
Could, I'm gonna ask Sarah to speak, if you guys could hang out in case there's anything that we may need.
We might need Sarah.
All right, perfect.
You wanna come?
Yeah, come on up.
You know I'm here to be of help.
Yes.
You need to call.
I will, sir, thank you.
Hi, everyone. So I touched base with Tim and Chris, and I'm happy to be here tonight. It's, you know, as your state representative, just want you to know that we are all in the legislature taking things pretty seriously. And I think you probably all know that the State House we're not convening this week, but we're working remotely. But before we left, we passed a package of bills in the House that the Senate is taking up this week remotely, so to help with a number of things. And I shared some of that information with you by email, but I think what I just want to say is, you know, I'm here to be of help. I'm helping, I get a lot of updates similar to what your emergency management team has. I've been hearing a lot about people concerned about work and employment and small businesses and what can be done. So I've been sharing information with Tim, but folks should go to the Department of Labor. There's folks about unemployment insurance. There's a lot of good information there. And there's a lot of emergency measures being put in place because of what's going on. We're concerned about, of course, Vermont's like the most vulnerable Vermonters, about folks who have to work, who work in emergency services, and how they might need childcare. The governor, I was on 2 calls today with both the Brattleboro Downtown Development Corporation, DCC, and they're having weekly calls starting this Friday. I'll send all of this to Tim so he can include it on the website, but weekly calls, resiliency webinars for small businesses and freelancers, you know, to kind of give them, it's a confusing and complicated time right now, so they can help folks navigate. There are emergency loans that can be available through the Agency of Commerce and Community Development. So all these kinds of things are available to folks. And I want to reiterate, you know, the message about relying on using reliable websites, because there are a few schemes that we've been hearing about. There's Johns Hopkins University has a very good site, but there's like a mock site of theirs, and it's being used to, you know, send out viruses. So folks should be careful about the websites that they use. And today we were on a call, the Joint Rules Committee, which is made up of Senate and House leadership. We had the commissioner of Department of Children and Families talking about what the governor was going to be announcing around child care centers, that some of them were going to be directed to close unless they were serving families who were emergency workers and their children. And believe me, there's a lot of details that everyone's still figuring out, like how this is going to land on people, because we know just as much as our nurses, we need those folks in the grocery store to be working there, you know, as well, and they're kind of essential operations. And there was a conversation that we had with the secretary, it was the Department of Labor, about supply chain and food and groceries and everything. And it was very reassuring to hear that there are enough supplies out there. Probably what folks have been experiencing is a mad rush. You know, I know toilet paper is a hot commodity, as is Purell, right? So,
I bought some today.
yeah.
I was able to score 20 rolls.
Yeah, you can resell that for a lot.
Yeah,
But-
I use it.
So I think, you know, the idea is, you know, if we, there will be more coming in, and, you know, there's reassurance that the supply chain, you know, for groceries in our country is here, you know, and just to also encourage people to maybe not hoard, you know, to really, you know, buy what you need so that your neighbors can, when they go to the store, that they have what they need, that we can look out, you know, for each other. So those are the kind of, that's what I'm sharing with you, what I'm hearing, but I'm also here to, you know, to be a resource for you. We're working, you know, I'm regularly working remotely, and we'll be kind of, the IT department within the legislature is figuring out how we can do our work remotely while still having, you know, public access to our work. So it's all in process, as we say. But I'm, you know, I hope people will feel comfortable to reach out to me, and I can answer any questions if people have questions, and I'll do my best. There were some questions that came up in Guilford about a few town processes that they needed me to ask about. So I don't know if folks here have any concerns legislatively or otherwise.
Tom?
I'm sorry, I was, one of the things that I'm hearing is for citizens who may be told to stay home from work and they don't have remote access, it's more service or retail and they're restaurant. How will the state coordinate with whenever the bill from the House gets pushed over to the Senate in Washington? How is that gonna be, do you know how that's gonna be handed down to the states for implementation at this point? Is there any, even though it hasn't been passed and signed, is there any?
Which I get the federal level, right?
Yeah.
So it was interesting that you should ask that, because today on one of the calls I was on, we had folks from our congressional delegation from Welsh's office and Leahy's office on the call. And there are 4 key bills that are moving between the two bodies, and there is still a lot in play. So but we do have we have pretty smooth communication with those folks, and those folks are also participating in the Joint Rules Committee meetings, which happen daily.
Good.
So it's really, and the legislature is working very closely with the administration. We're a team on this, you know. So, and some of the things that we passed in the House, we passed without knowing exactly what was going to be done on the federal level, but there were things like, for example, retired doctors and nurses, to give them the flexibility and ability to help join in the case of an emergency. Amendment to expand paid sick days to businesses with 5 or more employees, all sorts of things like that. So if the federal government doesn't take care of it, we hope we will. And we have to do this all the time, to coordinate with what's going on at the federal level. But so far, the communication has been good.
And the 5 or more, if I could, Mr. Chairman, seems to be a good filling the gap, because what I'm reading about the federal legislation right now, it's 50 or more, or 500. 50 to 500, and those above 500 may be exempted, and those below 50 may be exempted. So your thought of knowing that some of these businesses in the state are
It's
really
the scale
small.
of Vermont, right?
Right.
We're a small scale,
Yeah.
so.
Thank you.
So thank you. And I know one of the questions that came up in Guilford yesterday at their special select board meeting was a concern around deadlines with developing the town plan in Guilford. Because of the public, they made the decision yesterday to postpone and cancel many of the public meetings. And as you all know, with a town plan,
Right.
you need that public hearing process. So we're looking, I'm gonna be looking and finding out what kinds of deadlines are gonna potentially be extended. And that might come up for you in your work too, that you realize that you might need that. So please just, don't hesitate to reach out, any of you, so.
Thank you.
Thank you for your work. I think with emergencies, we really do see the best of Vermonters, and I really do think that, you all are an example, and you have some great, really well organized here. And please let me know how I can be of help.
Jean?
All set, thank you.
Sandy?
Thank you.
The only question that I would have is if anything over Entergy had to be with North Star, if any of that had to be extended deadlines, is that going to, and maybe Michael can help with his experience from Endicap, is any of that going to affect any deadlines? Is there anything at the state level, if that?
Well, I also sit on Endicap as well, so Michael and I sat on, I think a lot of that, it's all in an MOU, and I think we should just probably reach out to them. I think it's probably a question of workforce, right? If something happens with workforce. Most of that stuff it's all dictated by, through the MOU at the state and the federal level. So I think, I would hope that if there needs to be a conversation about that I think there's a lot of openness about what needs to happen, so,
Perfect. Jeff?
yeah,
Any questions? Thanks.
Yeah.
Michael?
Thank you for coming.
yeah.
I have one more.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry. Could you check with the federal folk, Peter or
Mhm.
the senators, on whether the the VA center in Bratt could be also used as a clearinghouse for testing.
They're doing no in-person business.
Right. But they could perhaps set up a parking lot test situation just to add one more venue.
One more venue.
Yeah,
Drive-through.
Do you know more about that, Michael? You
I
know
just know that they're not taking any
Inpatient,
patients in the
right.
office right now. I called the other day.
Yeah.
They're closed,
Only for telephone
only for
consults.
telephone.
But-
Yeah, and that is Congressman Welch's one of his areas,
Right.
so I could definitely reach out.
I have
to
a
them.
call, but they're, everybody's busy right now too, so.
Sure, yeah. Well, I'll shoot them an email. Sometimes it's nice having the new email address that I have. So,
Yes, exactly,
Yeah.
yeah.
well, I'm gonna stick around for a while, so if other things come up, and if I slip out, it's just because I have to feed some kids at home, so.
Well, if you do slip out, we appreciate it. The fact that you called the other day just to touch base, I think that Vernon and Guilford is very fortunate to have you.
Oh,
So thank you.
Thanks. All right.
Gordy?
Yes, sir. Good evening. And I did want to say congratulations, welcome aboard, Mr. Root. Thank you for serving our town. And as a fellow resident, I just wanted to say thank you to all of you for your service, for all that you're doing. And Tom, welcome aboard. As Thomas Paine, the political activist of the 1700s, said, these are the times that test men's souls. And your job is not an easy one. And as a financial advisor with Edward Jones, going through these volatile times in the market, I feel some of your pain, okay? But Angela Mayu said it best. She said, every storm runs out of rain. And I tell my clients regularly, this too shall pass. So again, thank you for what you're doing. And every day we get closer to the end of this very unique situation in our country's present situation. The reason that I'm here tonight, though, I just wanted to bring to your attention that two $100,000 bonds have been called in the last 2 months. One was a bond from the Royal Bank of Canada, and the other one was a Federal Home Loan Mortgage Corporation bond. I checked with Cindy Turnley, the town treasurer, and she is not in need of any of that cash at this point and feels comfortable reinvesting that into another bond. And so what I'd like to propose is that we reinvest that into a federal agency bond. It is the Federal Farm Credit Bank bond. And just for your clarification and understanding of what that is, I'll just give you a brief description. This is a Federal Farm Credit Bank bond as part of the Farm Credit System. It is a cooperatively owned nationwide system of banks and associations that provide services to farmers, ranchers, and producers or harvesters of aquatic products, rural homeowners, and agricultural and rural cooperatives. This bond is a AA+ rated bond, so it is a highly rated bond. Its coupon rate or interest rate is 2.78%. And at this point, I would just entertain the motion for you to grant us permission to reinvest the $200,000 that is available to put into this bond. And again, sticking with our conservative nature in our portfolio and our bonds, it has been a benefit for the town to be investing as conservatively as we have been, as you can tell by the past month or two. So I'd entertain any questions that you might have.
Michael?
Good, thanks.
Good.
I move that we authorize the investment of two $100,000 bonds with Federal Farm Credit Bank.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? You're all set, sir.
Okay, gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. Have a good evening.
Thank you. Mr. Walker, come on down.
I'm actually going to change this to two, Chris, for the state.
Whatever you want, man.
Well, they've changed everything on us in lieu of everything. The first one is for a signature for certification of compliance for the town road and bridge standards, which has been in place, it's just a yearly thing. Stating what will go by, what we have in place with the state.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve and sign the certificate of compliance for town and road bridge.
Motion,
Second.
second, moved and seconded to sign the certification of compliance for town road and bridge standards. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? All right. Is that for all of us?
So,
All right. Number 2, sir.
Annual financial plan for the state for class 2 and 3 roads. Normally, they go over it and send it back, but they're not working. They wanna know if I could do it. What we've done every year, it's filled out, it's actually on the back. And I will send it off to them, and if things have to change, they will let us know.
No class 4s on that, huh?
Nope.
Just checking.
Entertain a motion to sign this, please.
so moved.
Can I get a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Did you say?
Aye.
Aye, okay. Here, opposed? Perfect, there it is.
And I'll make a copy before I can get it to you, Tom and Tim.
In light of everything else that's going on, is there anything that we should be aware of? Anything that, everything's good?
Everything's going.
Happy down there?
Thank you.
Life is good? Employees
Yep.
are feeling good?
Yeah, you get my message today?
Yes, I
Yes,
did, yes,
okay.
yeah, and I'm sorry, and I sent that over to Tim,
Okay.
because he's making the volunteer list, so he'll have that information, should we need it.
Alright.
So I appreciate your help on that.
The other thing, I asked Tom, we missed it.
Yeah, we did.
Truck bid, to put it out, I'm wondering, will the board let us put it out to bid instead of going to trade it in, to actually sell it outright from the garage and try to get what the dealer would get?
Do you have a number on that yet?
We can probably almost double it. I know what they offered us is 12,
Which truck are we talking here?
the 03 dump truck, full-size truck.
Sounds good to me.
Is that a 10-wheeler, dude?
No, single axle.
Single axle?
Gene, any thoughts on that?
Sounds like it'd be worth a try.
I agree.
Let's
Alright,
do it.
then I'll take that out that we're not trading it in, just so I know.
Should we vote on that, or?
Okay.
I'm asking you because I don't know what I'm
Because I
doing
vote.
over here, so.
It's a good idea, because we're waiting back.
Okay, so I would entertain a motion.
I move that we allow David to try to sell the 03 dump truck outright.
Second.
Moved and seconded, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? All right, go for it, sir.
And this is just an FYI for you guys, it's brought up the last 2 years at town meeting, because of the time of year, I figured I'd do it. So, it comes up at budget time again, and everybody will be on the same page. And that's it.
All right, thank you, sir.
Yep.
All right, we are into the approval of minutes from, what is that, March 3rd? Thank you, guys.
I move that we accept the minutes of our reorganization meeting, March 3rd, as written.
Can I get a second? Moved and seconded, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And we are all set with that. Bills and warrants.
Okay. I move that we approve payment of the following warrant. 19T accounts payable, $85,273.19. 7S payroll, $7,776.29. 8S payroll, $7,800.23. 9S payroll, $7,075.98. And 10S payroll, $7,869.52. And ratify 18T accounts payable, $15,402.62.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All set. We will move on to new business. Michael, welcome to the select board. Thank you for volunteering in the absence and being willing to fill that role for the next year. It's appreciated and we're happy to have you here. If I may, I would like to skip down to new business number 3 and invite Seth up here. And Seth is going to join us for 2 things that we have on here. So as long as nobody is opposed to it, I'd like to bounce around a little. The Recreation's old lawnmower was brought into question at town meeting, actually asked if we would entertain either an offer to buy that or to accept bids on that. I did ask Seth about it. I did go over to the North School today. There's 2 attachments. One is a parking lot brush broom thing. There's a snow blower and the enclosed cab that goes with that. I mean, it's doing us no good. It's sitting there, so I think, I guess my thought was that we put that out to the town for bids with a starting bid of $500, and unless, I don't know what anybody else's thoughts are, that was my thought. And Jean?
There's 3 accessories there.
2 accessories and then
cab.
yeah.
I have
Maybe-
no
maybe
idea what
I'm-
the value is.
Yeah, maybe we should find out what's wrong with it first here.
I would
Ask
just say
you.
it's an as-is
Sure.
sale. I mean, if you, looking at it sitting next to the new one, it looks like an old lawnmower. It runs, well, we don't use it in the winter, so we haven't used it for a blower. We haven't used the attachments. It's I haven't used any of those since we've had it. My understanding is when we received the new one, that the dealer that delivered it felt like if their mechanics went through and fixed it all up, there was a chance they might get $2,000 for it, potentially, with all the things. And of course, that's after somebody's gone through it all and made it look pretty. So I would be comfortable with the $500, starting bid. I think is reasonable. And it's not doing us any good. We're just storing it at this point.
Gene?
And to be clear, the money would go back into the capital plan. My department doesn't receive any revenue for it. It just goes into the capital plan.
So hopefully it could go for, less than 500.
Right.
Yeah. I guess if it seems like that's the best we could do.
Yeah. We may get more than that. I don't know. There may be somebody
Right.
that comes in and says, "Oh, we'll give you $1,500, $1,000." I'm not
Yeah.
sure.
Okay.
But
It's kind of a
I mean,
reserve, right?
right.
Sandy?
Okay.
Jeff?
I think it's a good idea.
Michael?
Yeah, anything that's sad, the lines are no good anymore and stuff, so it's fine.
Yeah, it's pretty worn out. I will definitely say that. But
Do you want a motion?
What's the process? Do you put an ad in the paper? Do you make it, if you're gonna take bids on it, do you make it public so
I'm
anybody
looking
can bid?
directly at you for the answer on this one.
Yeah, you can put it in the paper, you're just doing it to the tenant, you should.
In the paper.
Well, do you wanna put it in the least expensive paper of general
Yeah.
circulation, like the Commons or something like that?
Mm.
Could you get me some specs on that, please, and I can get the ad written up, so you don't have to worry about that, but I need to know the year and the model and
Yep.
stuff that goes with it, and as is, of course, you know.
Yep, I can do that. I didn't bring a pen.
So
with
we'll
me
miss the
today, but-
deadline, it won't go in this week's.
That's
Comment.
already out.
Not, I don't mean this, it won't go in next week's comment, it'll be the week thereafter,
Okay,
so.
And then when you have that information, it can easily get posted on some of Vernon's
Oh, yeah.
media.
Yeah, I'll give it, Tim is like the wizard of getting stuff where it
Right.
belongs, so I really do lean with his expertise, so.
Sure.
Okay.
so I would entertain a motion to put that lawnmower out to bid with a starting bid of 500 listed in the Commons, as well as our Vernon pages.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? All right. This next one, we're gonna jump down to one of the additions, which was the payroll question. And I think, Sarah, I'm certainly glad that you're still here to weigh in on this. I'm going to get into my phone and read a message that I received today. No names. All right, gotcha. The Vernon Preschool, as you know, follows the WSESU schedule, so we will be closed until Vernon School reopens, which per the governor at this point, I believe, April 6th, Sarah? Is the tentative reopen date. The Vernon Preschool staff consists of 4 staff members. They are named here. 2 of them are full-time, 2 of them are part-time. One of the part-time is 15 hours weekly, the second part-time is 10 hours weekly. These hours are regularly throughout the school year, and our staff relies on this income. Vernon Preschool staff is dedicated and committed to our class success. They work around 6 students. Tough days, busy schedules throughout the year. They volunteer additional time by preparing and planning at home, communicating with preschool families, and running errands for the classroom. The role our staff plays is far more than the time spent in the classroom. They deserve to feel appreciated during this scary time. The school closure is out of our control, and during these unknown times, our staff deserves to receive their weekly pay. Though school is closed, we all still have bills to pay for, food to buy, and other expenses. I am very appreciative of our staff and feel that Vernon is very fortunate to have such a dedicated group of preschool staff. I think that this speaks directly to what Sarah was saying, that even in Montpelier, they're feeling that, what are we gonna do? We've got residents that depend solely on their paychecks from here. I will just come right out and say that my opinion on this is that this is a voted on budget. It has passed, and this is out of their control. And I would say that these people should be paid until April 6th, when we can reevaluate the situation and see what would happen at that point. And now I would, Jean?
These people in,
This
what
is,
does that mean?
this is just our
What town?
preschool staff.
Just the preschool?
And if we had other departments that were forced into shutting down, I would feel exactly the same way, that we would have to look at that. And certainly, this is no fault of their own. This is not a snow day that they can use a personal day to make up for. This is not, these people, in my opinion, should not be forced to use up all of their sick days to make their ends meet through this. And then we go back to school on the 6th and they have no time that they can use for the rest of the year.
And I think at this point, all the rest of the town employees are still able to work.
Mhm.
Cause we don't wanna leave anybody out.
Yeah.
So, absolutely, I support that.
We've budgeted for this,
Mm-hmm.
it's not costing us a cent, and they certainly deserve it.
Yeah, I have no problem with it. I do have a question. Are teachers still being paid?
Teachers are different because they're contracted. The preschool are our town employees. The other ones are through the SU. So I know, and I will only speak to my district, our teachers are still being paid. I am still being paid because I'm contracted. We do run into a situation where the paras, again, they are not our town employees. These are the SU employees. Paras, they fall into a different category where they're not contracted. So in my district, again, that's Windham Central, so I'm not speaking for Windham Southeast. they have the opportunity to come in and work with teachers. They have the opportunity to come in and work with custodial staff, really anywhere that we can find some hours for them, those are available to them. That same opportunity is not allotted to the preschool staff.
Yeah, I realize there's some teachers, trying to educate remotely.
Mhm.
So, yeah, they are being paid. I guess I would, again, I'd support this, and I'd like to be consistent with the educational system.
Michael?
I agree, it's already budgeted.
I would entertain a motion to continue paying our preschool staff until April 6th. Actually, why don't we put it on our next agenda for the select, because that should be the 7th, I believe, April 7th. And then we could reevaluate, and at that time, we should have some insight from Montpelier at that point where we're headed. Perfect, so I would entertain a motion for that.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Perfect. Seth, you are all set, sir. Thank you.
Appreciate it very much.
If you would be kind enough to reach out to her, that would be appreciated.
Absolutely will do.
Thank you.
Take care.
All right. So we are done with 1, 3, and one of the add-ons there. Update of town official contact information sheet. Did you have one of those with you, Tom, or?
No, but I did not bring it. Tim is working on
Okay.
updating it, and you're working on updating it.
Yeah. See all the
Okay.
red?
Yeah. Let me send to you what we have. Tim did some work on it. And you folks mark it up as you see, and there may be some duplications, and then we can get a final draft off to you for the next meeting. You'll have it.
Works for me.
Thank you.
We need to amend resolution for municipal planning grant. Tom?
I'm not sure. I don't think I brought that with me this evening either. I'm sorry. I'm gonna have to take a pass because I don't have it in front of me, Chris. I apologize. I didn't bring it down.
Is that deadline sensitive or?
No, we got notice today that they were putting the grant requirements out another 30 days. Till the ones due in April are now due in May, so I'm not too concerned about that.
Okay.
If there is an issue with it, I'll get a hold of you.
All right, so we will table that until the 7th. We need to appoint Vernon representation to the Windham Regional Commission. Is that usually Tim that is in that seat?
Tim is our representative now, right?
So I would entertain a motion to keep him there.
So moved.
Second? Moved and seconded from Michael to appoint Tim as our representative to the Windham Regional Commission. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? All set. We are tabling the discussion about the town picnic. Obviously, we don't even know if we're gonna be able to have a town picnic in June as of now, so kind of a moot point. Maddie Arms, if you would speak to that, Sandy?
Okay, we just need to reiterate that Maddie Arms, while she is our representative, she also serves as our liaison, and she will keep in contact with us as a board on what's going on in handicap.
Okay.
I thought I had put the appointments of, so our solid waste committee has nobody on it. Do we need a vote on that? I'm sorry.
No, we just
Okay.
needed to state that.
Okay. So our solid waste committee has Bob Spencer on it, who is a non-voting member. I put something out, just letting the residents know that we needed to refill that committee, and I was blown away
Yeah.
by the response that we got. So I will read some names here, and as long as there is no, everybody is in favor of it, I would just entertain a motion that we appoint to the Solid Waste Committee Don Rosinski, Debs Lockwood Tyson, June Turner, Bob, I will kill this last name, Uccello. Munson Hicks, and Carol Campbell.
Is that one R or two Rs in that, Carol?
That's a great question.
Okay.
And those are the names that I have, and I did pass that on to Bob Spencer. He was on board with all of those names, and I think that given how that committee has run recently, where it's been next to no people, that if we start with this number, I think that that's a great place to start and let them get to work on the pay-as-you-throw issues, and hopefully we can get back on top of that. So I would entertain a motion for those names.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded to appoint the names listed to the Solid Waste Committee. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, all set. The last edition that we had at the EOC last night, we were talking about how do we find out our vulnerable residents? How do we get them so that we have that information on hand, so that in events like this, we can be asking Deputy Whittle to, hey, just check on these people. Tim can give them a call. We can certainly look into this. We bounced some ideas around, obviously recognizing that we live in Vermont and we are a bunch of stubborn backwoods people that don't want help. So the thought was, and the suggestion was, that we do a direct mailer of postcards. And the reason for that would be that that would give us the opportunity for, I will use my family, that my grandfather would never ever fill this out. But he has 2 kids and some grandkids in town that would get that could certainly fill that out for him on his behalf, so that it's there. And that would certainly anger my grandfather, but it was, in a case like this where we don't want them leaving, we don't want them going out and about. But again, I mean, it wasn't that long ago that we dealt with Irene and all of these other things, so. Tim says it's about $200-ish to mail them out, somewhere thereabouts, the same to have it printed. So the thought was it would be about $500, would be more than enough to cover that. And I was just curious the board's thoughts on this.
So what is it gonna ask? I mean, there's gonna be questions for people to answer. This is what it's gonna have.
Yeah, so it's
Yeah.
pretty much,
Do you know someone?
do you know somebody? Is there somebody in your family? Is there a loved one that lives in town that we
Okay.
should be aware of in these cases? Tim and I have not gone much
Yeah.
farther than just
Yeah.
a quick note on what the
Right.
board's thoughts were on this, but it would certainly be spelled out that, you know, we're not coming knocking on doors, we're not giving you phone calls this is just in these cases, so that we know that our EMS can check on these people, or just kind of a way that we can start to rebuild that community strength and support of helping each other, looking out for each other.
You can start keeping a record too with those "Are you okay?" forms if you start making the calls that came through today from the sheriff's office. Those, you know, you can start getting a data bank, if you will, of that type of thing. If I could, just one other, all of these human service agencies that I've been contacting through last night's meeting as well, one of the things I'm asking them, you know, the people you are dealing with, we're not asking them who they are, because there are HIPAA issues related to that, but people that you're working with, that you may only work with them a little bit for perhaps physical therapy, and they get out and they go out and get their own food and their meals and so forth. Maybe now they can't, if they're concerned about getting out in the social distancing issue and all of those types of things. If you know of those folks, you can let us know, or you can have them call us directly, because you can't tell us who they are. Have them call us directly, or you might be able to hypothetically say, so-and-so on X street may be someone you wanna get a hold of, and we can build a data bank from that as well.
Thoughts? Gene, Sandy?
Are you gonna include those at the nursing home and Windham Hall and? Because those are pretty well, you've gotta have a bus there to get them out of there.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Birches and I think the Huckle Hill House are different.
Right.
I'm not sure, I mean, the hall is staffed 24/7, so I'm not sure that one's as important, but
So would you ask for their phone numbers or just their 911 address?
what do you think? This is a quick note at an EOC meeting that we were trying to come up with ways to make sure that we did not overlook anybody in this.
Maybe if they put down their name, like if Michael was answering for his mother, who'll probably kill me for saying this, she's not old enough yet. But if he was, he could put his name down and they could contact him personally for the address and the phone number if they don't want it printed.
Sure.
I don't know.
Jeff?
Yeah, I think it's a good investment in our community. It's probably something that's gonna have to be done every so often though,
Mm-hmm.
you know, as people come and go.
It's not just elderly either, you know, it could be people with disabilities otherwise.
Certainly, yeah, I mean, I think the wording would be vulnerable.
Right.
Jeff right now.
Would you like us to contact you? Check yes, please, give us a number, your contact number or email, we can reach you.
Heat check, yes, just for the free meal delivery.
Could have used the delivery a few weeks ago.
Michael?
I'm not gonna speak on the mailing because it has to do with my job, but you could reach out to the post office because rural carriers see people every day that most people don't.
That's right.
I can't do that, but somebody should.
Can they do that as rural carriers? Can they let us know?
Refer you to the postmaster, Vernon.
So what do we wanna do?
I would do it, we'll have to work on tweaking it to be sure we can touch on everybody.
Yeah, I think it's something you should pursue. Then when it's a little more concrete, the details, then we can talk about it again.
So if Tim was able to have that ready for our next meeting, we could make a decision on that.
Or if he had it ready beforehand, he could let us know and we could ratify it. Something that important
Yeah.
could be done that way, I think.
Okay. Motion on this?
I move that we allow up to $500 for preparation and mailing of postcards for vulnerable Vernon residents.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
So
Aye. Opposed?
Abstain or
Not
whatever.
abstain.
We are gonna table the select board policies. Despite everything that's going on, I think that we still need to have a discussion about the town administrator recruitment. And what our thoughts are on that, it's kinda, with town meeting and with everything else, it's kind of gone stagnant for a little bit, and I think that we need to open that back up. And I truthfully am not even sure where we left off with that, because there was some follow-up with VLCT and then everything went away, so.
that was what primarily just to try to locate an interim.
Is that what that, okay.
Yeah, I believe so.
Because
Yeah,
I
I
thought
know.
last time they were part of, but there was gonna be a fee and
Right.
to have them
Right.
help us with that hiring
Yeah,
process.
Wasn't that 6,000, wasn't that the number?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was
So
somewhere thereabouts,
6,500.
But first,
Yeah.
we need to get that job description under control.
Mhm.
You know, cause we've kinda started maneuvering things a little bit with that. And then I think from there, you could approach VLCT to advertise, right?
We were talking about Indeed as well.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I
Or
think,
start with just that.
I think part of it is gonna come down to what's left in that job description too. If we go through that, is that still a full-on town admin position, or have we gone to more of a administrative assistant role, or, and if we start to head in that direction, do we need VLCT to be the ones that are leading that hiring process, or could we do that internally to save the 6,500, or,
Right.
I mean, these are things that we're gonna have to figure out here.
The board's gotta decide what it wants out of the position.
Mm.
But if you are going to look for someone that has grant writing acumen, which is not always a town administrator acumen, but a lot of town administrators can. If you bring it down to an admin assistant or an executive assistant type level, however you might wanna call it, you probably may not, that is a better term, may not have the same level of expertise relative to grant ability when you bring the level.
Do they have people, grant writers, that do it like on a,
Freelance,
yeah,
I can give you 3 or 4 different people that do that, and the Windham Regional Commission should be able to help you with some
Okay.
grant writing as well.
you pay them.
Okay, and I don't know the breadth of, but I know in past lives, both in Vermont and otherwhere, the regional planning commissions were very helpful in that type of thing. They were also helpful in grant administration. But I think the board, just because of what I've heard from different members, need to really decide what in fact you want this person to be and to do. There are a number of position descriptions in the area, small towns. Guilford, Putney has a town manager, that's a little different. Northfield has a town administrator position. They're a little bit bigger, not a lot bigger, but they're a little bit bigger. Different state, different laws, that type of thing, but a lot of same issues, same about number of employees, that type of thing. You need to really just figure out, if you don't want this person to have strong personnel oversight, then you have to work the job description to be very clear of that too. So it really is something that this board, and maybe you wanna do a facilitated meeting on that, and I'd be more than happy to facilitate that meeting for you, so you can, don't worry about taking notes, don't worry, just, have a free flow of the board. And make that, figure out exactly what it is you want out of someone that you're paying fairly good for Vernon, good salary for, and decide what you want that person to do.
Sandy?
That's a good idea.
Jeff?
Yeah, I like the idea of the facilitated meeting,
Okay.
probably for Michael's benefit. If you can locate the very last copy of a job description.
For here.
him, Yeah,
Mhm.
for here. I mean, Michael's gonna need a copy. I
Right.
lost my copy. I've got an old one, but an old job description.
I have one that was, done in anticipation of advertising. So it basically had all the same information that the past town administrator that was her job description. It was just maybe rearranged
This
a little
was from
bit.
years ago or current?
Current, I guess. I mean, it was just done like in
Oh,
January
okay,
or
yeah, yeah.
something.
Well, that
It
was-
just got reorganized a little, but it had in it at least the latest job description that I had. It had everything in it.
So, Tom, could we task you with, getting the most recent one out
Mhm.
to the board as a whole?
Yeah,
And if you could include a description from Guilford, Northfield, and pick one more, I don't care.
I don't go north, I generally go south, so going north, well, Newfane has someone, I think,
Do they have I don't think they have a town administrator, do they?
Dover. Wilmington has a town manager.
Just pick one, send us three of them.
Sunderland's a town, it's a
I
little
don't
bigger.
really want another Massachusetts.
Yeah, I
town.
understand, I'm just thinking of smaller, Warwick has somebody.
Yeah, those are mass.
Yeah.
Stick to Windham County.
Okay. I'll find somebody, I'll
Okay.
find.
And if you could get that to us, and then, we could try and figure out when we wanted to meet for that.
And if you look at the VLCT book that
Yeah,
has all the people in it, that tell you
yeah, I've had some,
compensation and stuff.
mm,
I'll
'Cause
tell you.
it would certainly be nice to have this rolling before the new fiscal year.
Yeah, any money to advertise doesn't start till July 1st. That was in the budget we just passed,
mm,
because right now we don't have money for that.
I thought originally we had talked about using some of the remaining salary there.
Will there be remaining salary?
I'm trying really hard.
Oh, I'm not faulting you, but
I mean, there'll be remaining salary if we hire somebody soon enough. I mean, that's,
well, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't really remember that.
but I mean, I don't think
I
that
think we threw that out there, but we,
if we push
kinda
this
like
off
not a
until,
vacant position.
If you push it off till July, you
Wow.
won't have anybody on until September, or end of August.
and then we're already touching
Well, I
that
know,
salary so.
if we can put off, getting billed till July 1st, we'll be all good.
But I think part of that is gonna come down to what that job description looks like and whether we need VLCT's help and those things. So I think that is the place to start. Let's look at 3 surrounding towns that are similar size, similar infrastructure, those types of things. Plus whatever the current job description was, and then we can spend a couple of weeks looking that over and making the changes and come back together and have that discussion.
Yeah, because you gotta look at your labor market, where you're competing against as well. What you're, for where you're drawing for candidates. There's a lot of things to look at, it's, but let's get the job descriptions out. The current one, and see what I can pick up from the other towns. Let's, spend an hour and a half throwing stuff up against the wall and seeing where it prioritizes out. And see what the board, determines that they wanna do for the town.
Everybody all right with that?
Sounds great.
So after we get that, we could, do we wanna do that at the next select board meeting, or?
I would suggest you separate it so you're not pushing up against other business.
Due to the facilitation meeting.
Yeah, because we're not,
We've got
we
3
got like
weeks off.
3 weeks off, don't
Yeah.
we? Yeah, that's,
So do we wanna do it the last week in March?
yeah.
Meet on that Tuesday, and then we'll have our select board meeting the following.
So that would be the 6th is on, the 7th is on a Tuesday, so it would be
So
the
that's our first meeting.
31st.
Yes.
Yes, I think it is.
Yep.
If you see my sister, wish her happy birthday that day.
All right, we'll do that.
That.
So we can set that March 31st at 6:30. Does that work for everybody?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I will send out some, if I can find them in my pile at home, I'll send out some basic facilitation rules and guidelines on how we may wanna run this.
We do this in executive session, right?
No,
You
we
don't?
can, but I don't see why that would be executive session on just figuring out what you want.
I don't know, I'm asking.
Right, as long as we're not gonna be saying, Chris said this and Chris said that, and it's Chris's fault.
It is
Oh.
Chris's.
Well, I mean,
Maybe we need executive session.
no matter what, it's all gonna be my fault, so I'm fine with
Oh, no,
this.
no, it's Michael's, remember?
Oh, that's right, yeah. He's the new dog to kick around here, right? All right, so we will do that. I think that was, I think you missed this one, Sandy. So other than that, I do need to announce that April 18th at the Vernon School, we were supposed to have a fundraiser for Kelly Wunsch. That has been postponed indefinitely, given everything that is going on. I have been in touch with Mary Ross. As soon as we have some idea, direction on this, we will get back with the organizers of that and allow them to continue that. Public participation, we have none. Correspondence? Admin report?
Mr. Chairman, if I could take a few minutes, just to, been around 3-4 weeks now. Thought I'd give you a little heads up as to what I'm doing. Not in great detail, but a couple of things. When I first came on, the task was to get ready for town meeting and get things ready and put together for that town meeting. I'm sorry. I hope that presentation went well and the board was pleased with that. I want to thank the treasurer.
I have to say that was probably the best town meeting.
Yes.
Everybody was friendly, everybody was respectful, and our town achieved some pretty cool things that night. I
and, you know,
was super excited.
I really thought it was important. Sandra, as chair at the time, and I talked about putting things right out there at the beginning, letting people know, not hiding what had gone on, that you've gone through some transitions and put it right out, and that you were getting ready to move forward, and things I hope were forward leaning. That's what we wanted to have happen. One of the other things that was put to me immediately was there was some concern that we were falling behind on some grant reporting. Not the one tonight, but other grant reporting. One had to do from the Vermont Community Foundation. It was a smaller grant. And one had to do with the safety provisions that were being put on at the Recreation Department on Pond Road. The Vermont Community Foundation grant, and I can't even get into the details of what it was, I just wanted to see where we were in the reporting. That was taken care of and completed, so there's nothing more that needs to be done with that small grant. I spoke to the Vermont Community Foundation directly, the staffer that was in charge of our particular program. The recreation grant, we're putting in various safety provisions up there. That is open until 2021. So I had a conversation with the director, they're starting, they have some other things they have to do on that particular grant to put things in. It's a reimbursable, so we're collecting, we have quite a few of the receipts. They were real good about record keeping on that. And when he finishes up what he has to do up there with the swing gates and some other things that are going on, then we'll get those receipts, we'll submit. It's up to, it's an up to grant, so you may not spend the full amount that was budgeted. You may be able to do it for a little less, so the reimbursement will be less. But that is, everything that needed to be done up to this date has been done. I attended the Northern Borders Council meeting that they had up in Londonderry about a week and a half ago, it'll be 2 weeks ago this week. Because the Northern Borders Commission now extends throughout the whole state of Vermont. It was for a while, just the upper 4 counties or 5 counties. It's a Vermont, New Hampshire, Maine, and part of New York State. Really in large part due to the work of our congressional and the other congressional delegations and senatorial delegations to put this together with the lead of the governor. The governor sits on that board. There is $4.5 million available in grant funding for each of the states in that part of New York. They are looking for actual projects. We're not ready to apply for a grant. They like bigger grants. Water and sewer are things they really like to do because it's, you know, you can spend that money really quickly doing water and sewer projects. But broadband is something that they're looking at. One of the things that may be eligible, maybe a year out, maybe not this particular year, would be the Friends of the Governor Hunt group there, as they're working on a downtown type plan and what, for a village center and those types of things. If they get some planning done, there may be some implementation money that may be available a year or so down the road, where the application, they may have extended it because of this COVID-19, but as of a week and a half ago, there's no way we're gonna be able to make anything on that anyways. In Windham County, in the southern counties, there's a 50% match. And it can be some in-kind. They don't really like in-kind. We were pretty much told about that. But you can use other federal or state grants as a match. You know, where in a lot of programs, you can't do that. So if you were to get a community development grant from the Department of Commerce and Community Development for, let's say, downtown work, you could use that money as a match toward anything you were applying for at the commission. And you also have a 2-year window to be able to get that match. So they could give you they could grant the grant contingent on finding the match. So it's flexible in that way, but it is not flexible in non-implemented, not planning grants. They're not looking for planning. They're not looking for fixing the town hall. They're not looking for that type of thing. But if you were to create a community center that was gonna have an impact on the economic development of the town of Vernon, that may be something they look at. It was a pretty interesting meeting. There's a lot more to learn. We're working, I know that you have $15,000 to do a capital assessment. That's in your plan. And you have, I know, at least one company that I think the town of Guilford used. I've seen that email. There are other groups out there that do this as well. And I've been scouting around to see, given our square footage, you know, of the buildings, and Chris and I sat down, we kind of brainstormed the buildings too. I'm not sure if the school's involved or not, and I still have to.
Yeah, that, and we were talking about that the other day, and I don't remember if the school was one of those buildings we were looking at or not in that assessment.
I don't think so.
I don't believe it was either.
Okay, so that brings the square footage down, and it will bring the cost down for any firm that's looking at this. But we did go through a number of the buildings, trying to laundry list them out, and I'm gonna talk to Dude Solutions as well. And there are a couple other companies, they're nationals, but they're good at what they do. I don't know if $15,000 will cover that enough, but the square footage is gonna be close, because you have the highway garage, the salt shed, the building across
Well,
the
we
street.
got to that number based off from the information that we were given from the
The other
company that
company?
worked with Guilford.
Yeah.
So if you're saying that the other company's 15 grand's not gonna be
I don't
enough,
know that
then-
yet.
Then we're just gonna stick with where
Sure.
we're at.
Right, but you should get more than one quote. Whenever, I think if you're spending $15,000-$20,000, if it was something else, you'd put it out to bid. You'd put it out for RFP. So I just wanna get, if they're too high, then they're too high, and you go with what you got, and that's good. But, so I'm just doing some follow-up on that, that's all. We have spent a lot of time on this COVID-19, you know, at least in the last week. In addition, The White House had a call-in, conference call. There were about 3,800 people on the call, and it was really to hear what the federal agencies, HHS and others, were planning to do. That has changed almost 100% in the last week, as to what was going on in the original call. But we've been trying to stay up on that, both on a state, regional, and federal level. Talked to you about that earlier. You have a copy tonight of the current budget as to where we are to date. I had a number of questions. I wanna just indicate to you that any question, or as silly as they may have sounded for someone who hasn't been working with your budget, the town treasurer and her assistant have been nothing short of outstanding in their assistance to me. I just think you folks need to know that. As has the clerk's office. I am looking for funding opportunities, be it grant or other gifts, as it relates to the generator, for this building, to move the Emergency Operations Center.
You're working on that with David?
I am working on that right now just to see what's out there. Then I'm gonna talk to David about the
Because
size we need.
David's already done the legwork on that.
Okay.
So I mean, anything that's involving the EOC,
I
certainly.
was just following up with what you had asked me to take a look at for grant funding a week ago.
Right, but I put in that
Yeah.
email that you work with David
Right.
on that,
Yeah, and I
because
will
he's
be.
already done all of that.
David Emery.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we're looking at that as well. And I think that gives you a little bit of an idea of what I'm doing, other than I'm doing a lot of file research as well. I've looked at your pay plan, I've looked at some of those types of things, and just to see how it works. I need to know the mechanics of how things work as well. So that's where we are with that. Now, I had one other piece of correspondence to set out to you I didn't put on your desk earlier. This is just from the Windham Regional Economic Resiliency Team. It came from Adam at BDCC, and I wanted you to take a look at that. And that's just things you're gonna, because you don't have enough to read, you're not getting enough emails on things, I just gave you one more thing, to pre-bed meeting type stuff. The budget, I had a couple of questions on, and the treasurer was really, really good about helping me out with that. But if you just, I'm gonna give you some examples. The Lister's budget, from a salary perspective, is not near where it should be, given this coming up to toward the end of the third quarter, but there's been a vacancy. Okay, so that's what the answer is with that. If you turn 2 more pages over to general government, while there's a lot of the line items there, I won't get into the detail of each of them, that have not spent a lot in the line items, your general office supplies, for whatever reason, and those are shared through the departments, is currently a little upside down. And I'm gonna ask the treasurer for a detail on that, so I can see where that has been spent. I just got this yesterday, so. And it's, when we go into the general government, it's about 3 or 4 pages later, when you get to the town van.
Careful now, that one gets touchy.
I'm not suggesting anything bad, I'm just suggesting this is what I've observed.
Where is it?
Gas lines up.
the gas is over, and that may be the price of gas. I don't know if you get bid gas.
Mhm.
You do,
Mhm.
okay. So you may be paying, you know, that when that bid came out last year, it may have been a higher price than it is now. That's, but that is something that you just wanna keep an eye on, is they're gonna need to, we're probably gonna use the van quite a bit too, if we're doing some deliveries. and
That
things.
would not be coming out of this budget.
Right.
If that happened.
So those are just, and the other one was, on the town garage operation, and I have not spoken to David, this is again just an observation. You know, you can see that it's been a pretty good winter, if you go down by some of those, it's been a pretty good winter. But your fuel oil, which is your, I think, your heating oil there, it's, you know, you shouldn't use much more between now and the end of the year anyways. But, that was getting toward the tipping edge on that as well. Most everything else in the budget, is pretty much right on schedule. You'll see some, you know, some of the general government things, you're way up for the year being late, but some things, I was speaking with Ms. Carter earlier, you know, you pay your county tax, or you pay things up front. Your insurances you pay in July, so those are gonna show that a big part of that budget's already gone early in the year, but you pay those as the policies come due. But everything else seems to be right about where it belongs at this point in time. And if you have any questions as you go through the budget line by line, just give me a call and we will get the detail for you.
Do we know if the salt used here for the stairs and stuff, would that come out of that supply line, or is that somewhere else? Is that?
Well, they're coming out of the general supplies?
I'm only asking because I know that the salt that we had was eating away the stairs. They've stopped using it and they had to buy another pallet of that. So I don't know if that would have anything to do with it.
Okay.
but Worth looking
Yeah,
at.
so if you get a
Yeah, I'm gonna get a
detail,
detailed sheet on
see
that, so.
yeah.
So that's really all I had on that.
All set, Tom?
Yeah, I'm just still, there's still a little feeling around the edges to find out, you know, exactly who does what and how that works, but, overall, I think you're pretty well up to speed as to what we're up to.
Currently, all VLCT trainings that we had are postponed indefinitely, I believe. Sarah, do you know anything about that? Trainings, I believe everything is indefinite at this point.
Oh, I think if it's over a certain number of people, I think they put a lot, I would recommend calling them.
Okay.
Cause
So I
I'm
don't
looking
believe
at
there's anything.
I'm looking at an update right now, I don't see anything
Okay.
about them.
We now have a special meeting on the 31st to discuss the town administrator job description. That will be at 6:30, followed by a select board meeting on April 7th at 6:30. I would ask that the board spend the next 3 weeks trying to think of some agenda items, things that we may have overlooked recently or over the last year, whether that's policies or any of that stuff that might warrant being relooked at, so that we could start to head in that direction. And as for everything else, I mean, we got a lot of information on the COVID-19. Sarah was here to represent the state, and I think that we are in a great place to carry through this. And I have to say that just watching the Facebook page, as crazy as that is for Vernon, that we have seen a drastic swing in the way that our residents are communicating with each other, the way that they're coming out to help each other. And there is more of a sense of community over the last 2 months than I have seen on that Facebook page or felt walking through our school or even in this building. And it is great to see that and to feel that, and I think that we are in a tremendous spot to move forward. We just have to look out for each other, take care of our neighbors, and see where we go. We are adjourned.